Ms. Jenkins, have roll call.
Mr. Westmoreland,
Present.
Mr. Duncan.
Here.
Ms. Dominguez. She's there? Out of the room. Ms. Abrams.
Here.
New business, A, discuss the accounts payable check register for June 16, 2021 to July 30th, 2021 in the amount of $27,049,411.84. Mr. Znalbach.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In this particular check register, we're covering more than the 30-day period. If you notice, it goes from June 16th through the end of July. It closes out the year for the 2021. It also includes all our, what we call our 13th period transactions for the entire year. So that's why the figure looks a lot higher than you normally would. It's items that we're accruing back into the 2021 school year. There's no action needed by the board. This is just for information only. If you have any questions, I'd entertain them.
All right, no questions. We'll move on to section B. Discuss the proposed 2021-2022 annual operating budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At our board meeting next Tuesday night, August 17th, we'll have a public hearing, and then we'll have present the 21-22 operating budgets to the board for consideration. As I've talked to y'all before, our budget includes a few assumptions. I'd like to go through them if y'all are okay with that. I presented y'all a copy of the budget in the past. I don't have one for y'all today, but y'all should have it. But just some general ideas. In the general fund, our MFP, we budgeted at $121,185,975, which includes the $800 raise for our teachers and $400 for our support workers. It also includes a reduction for local cost allocation due to other LEAs. That's where we pay a portion of our local revenues to those students that are enrolled in virtual program or another school district other than our public schools. And then also, there's a minimum required for child nutrition program. That's included. Also in our budget, we anticipated that the 21-22 first 1 cent sales tax dedicated to the general fund will increase by $1.375 million compared to the 2021 revised budget. It's still a 6% reduction over last year's actual sales tax. We were very conservative in our sales tax revenue presented here in this budget because we're not exactly sure of the impact of what's going to happen when the federal stimulus money dries up, and that, you know, if the jobs aren't coming back, we're not sure how our sales tax will come. However, our most recent sales tax numbers for August were very strong. They were 19% above last year's numbers. So right now we're very conservative and we're feeling pretty comfortable with our budget.
You've always been conservative since I've known you, Mr. Snowball.
Thank you, Mr. Bush.
You're welcome.
We budgeted an increase of $116,000 in our general fund property tax revenue based on our 2021 revised budget. We budgeted expenditures to include the 7% salary increase of about $8.8 million and salary schedule adjustments of about $1.1 million. We budgeted expenditures to include state pay raises for all eligible employees at a cost of $1.9 million to the general fund. That's the $800 for teachers and the $400 for support workers. We budgeted expenditures to include step raises for all eligible employees at a cost of $1.7 million. We budgeted expenditures do not include a supplemental pay raise. So there's not one in the budget at this particular time. We budgeted expenditures include health premium increases, which is a 5% increase effective January 1. The general fund also includes an operating transfer of $450,000 for expenditures to the Hammond Magnet School program and $865,000 for magnet school expenditures that are other sites other than the Hammond schools. We used an employer contribution rate for the teachers' retirement system at 25.2%. Last year it was 25.8%, so it's a slight reduction. And for the school employees' retirement at 28.7%, and last year it was at 28.7%, no change. In our special revenue fund, this is we budgeted the new Education Facility Improvement District. That's the district that's collecting the additional half penny. was added to the budget this year. We're estimating that the collections would be $10.1 million. Those funds will cover the increased salaries and benefits for our employees related to the 7% raise. We included 3 congressional funding appropriations related to the pandemic relief, the CARES Act. We have some remaining ESSER 1 funds, ESSER 2 funds, and ESSER 3 funds included in this budget. We have various changes to other funds and grants that are due to the grants either ending or the change in the allocation of funds from the state. We also included in our debt service fund, we budgeted our $1.1 million for our O.W. Dillon School for the sinking fund. We also included $500,000 for the required annual funding for the sales tax bonds, our Phase 1 construction projects. We also included capital projects funds. We budgeted $2.4 million of second 1-cent sales tax proceeds in the capital fund, which is 1.25 more than we did in the 2021 year. And we established separate capital project funds for each Phase 1 construction project to record construction costs and related funding transfers from the total Phase 1 funding project. So all those changes or items or assumptions were included in our operating budget. If there's any questions, I would entertain them now. No action is needed at this time.
So in other words, we got to go study this?
Yes.
We got to keep studying that? All right, no questions. We'll move on
I
to,
have a question. I'm not
go ahead,
gonna-
Mr. Bush.
Mr. Stoddard, when is the half-cent supposed to start?
The vendors started collecting July 1.
Okay.
So the month of July, they're collecting the extra half penny. When they go to remit their July sales tax reports to the sales tax office, which is August 25th, they'll collect the money and we'll receive the first portion on September 1.
And the teachers?
The teachers are going to get their increase on their August check. 12-month employees saw their increase July 1. Our 9-month, 10-month, and 11-month employees, the first month of their new year is August. So when August 26 comes, they'll receive that in their salaries. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to Section C, consider approval of the 2021-2022 property and casualty, crime, and errors and omissions insurance policies, and I'm sure you're going to tell us it went down, right?
Well, actually, I'm gonna turn it over to Ms. Bro, give
Okay.
an opportunity for someone else to talk. But I will have to tell you that this was the one biggest concern I had related with developing our operating budgets. When I talked to my counterparts around the state, some districts, especially those in the Lake Charles area out west where they had two hurricanes last year, some were seeing their property insurance premiums go up 300%.
Wow.
Keep that in mind. Many of them saw, large double-digit percentages. The numbers that Ms. Bro's going to talk about, our property went up 6.4%.
Thank you, Mr. Schneidelbach. Good evening. In front of you, we have the first spreadsheet you'll see. I'm going to start with your liability package. I'm going to be looking at column 4, talking about column 4, because that is the current renewal being offered by your current agent, which is Emery & James, with Berkeley Insurance Company. And I'm going to go through it rather quickly, but if you have any questions, please stop me. There are going to be no changes to the renewal offer currently in column 4. The liability limits will remain the $3 million for your general liability, $150,000 for your self-insured retention, which is your deductible. All other coverages, terms, and conditions will remain the same as your expiring policy. When you go down to line 16, this is your annual premium. You'll see column 3 is your $638,655. This is what you paid last year. The current renewal is going to be $687,508. That's what Berkeley is offering for this year. It's about a 7.5% increase, about $48,000 increase. If you look right below that, line 19, you're going to see an option that Berkeley has given to you to increase that deductible, your SIR, on your liability. It's already at $350,000 on the auto, and to increase it to $350,000 on the E&O section, and I'll show you that when we get to it. The total premium would be the $609,808. So you would see a savings if we chose that option to increase the deductible on the general liability and on the E&O section. It's about a $77,000 decrease over what they're currently offering you. Section B is your auto liability. Nothing will change there. Still $3 million limit and a $350,000 deductible. You currently have a $350,000 deductible on the auto, so there would be no change there. That premium's included in that $600,000 above. Then on section C, your leased car physical damage, you will see no changes there. You're still going to have a maximum payable per accident and a maximum aggregate of $500,000. You're still going to have the $20,000 deductible there. And again, that premium's included in that original package. Section D is your school board errors and omissions liability. No changes in your current limits, the $2 million per claim, $3 million aggregate limit. Your current SIR is $250,000. If we were to increase, go with that option, we would increase that deductible to $350,000. All the other coverages under your board E&O will remain the same. No changes at all there. And again, that premium is included in that $600,000. So what we need to decide is, are we going to take that option to raise that deductible on the general liability and on the errors and omissions section? And one of the things that I did was I went back and I looked at your prior claims history. I took the current year and 5 years prior, just to have some background, some history to see how you've done on claims. The bulk of your claims have been on the auto section, and you already have that $350,000 deductible on the auto section. So there would be no change there. You do have a few claims under the general liability, and you have a couple of claims under E&O. But going back and looking for the last 6 years at those, the highest claim paid out was on E&O, and it was $165,000. So it was nowhere near that $300,000. And so I'm going to recommend that you go ahead and take advantage of the savings that Berkeley's offering you and increase your deductible to $350,000 on all lines, the general liability, keep the auto at $350,000 and the E&O at $350,000, and take advantage of that $77,000 savings for you. And then when we continue on, that's the liability package. When we continue on section F, this is your crime, this is your employee dishonesty.
That's the next item on the agenda.
Crime? Oh, no, cyber. Cyber's next. Okay. Crime is your employee dishonesty. Again, column 4, your current agent, Emery and James, Travelers Insurance Company. There's absolutely no changes at all in any of the coverages. The limits, you're still at $1 million limit, a $10,000 deductible. The premium for this year is going to be $16,838. It's about a $700 increase over expiring. When you go down to section G, you have your machinery breakdown. Again, column 4, it's with Emery and James. You will notice a different carrier. Your current policy is with Travelers. It's been with Travelers for many years now. Travelers has offered a renewal, and you'll see that under the options under section 11 there. The Travelers premium, when they quoted it, was $30,370. That's an increase. Your expiring's only $11,367. The reason for their increase is because you have a claim right now that is still open with them. They've already paid out to date right about $300,000, and I think they still have $45,000 left to pay you. So they're gonna be paying you close to $350,000 when the claim is finished and done with. So of course, they took that into consideration when they quoted their renewal. Your agent shopped the marketplace for you, and he came back with a quote with Liberty Mutual. Liberty Mutual is an A-rated carrier, just like Travelers is. They're just as solid, just as sound as what Travelers is. And they are actually quoting you the same coverages that you have, not a little bit different, not the same coverage. Your current limit is at $250 million. They're quoting a $200 million limit. The deductible would remain the same at $5,000, but their premium is going to be $10,539. And Liberty Mutual is aware of the claim that's open with Travelers. They are aware of the amount that Travelers has paid out, and they've still offered this premium. And so I'm going to recommend that you switch to Liberty Mutual and take advantage of that premium. The next page is going to be your building and contents. And as Mr. Schneidelbach said earlier, I have been seeing horrendous rate increases around the state. I've renewed 8 other school boards up until today, until yours. I have you and Livingston left to go. This is the lowest increase that I have experienced so far. Most of my increases have been in the neighborhood of 18 to 23% in their premium. I was thrilled when your current agent, which is Powell and Associates, were able to negotiate with your current carriers, Westchester and Velocity, to keep that increase to a minimum. It's right around a 5% increase when it's all said and done. But we're going to look at column 4. That's the renewal being offered. It is with Westchester. You'll notice your statement of values is increasing slightly, going from $264 million to $269 million. And just remember that that number is going to continue increasing as you build new campuses and you upgrade campuses. That number is going to continue to increase. This first layer, you buy $10 million of coverage for it. Everything else will remain the same. You're still going to have a 5% named storm deductible for wind and hail, a $100,000 deductible for all other perils. When you go down, you're going to see line 18. This is your total premium. You're going from $506.79 to $531.517. It's about a $25,000 increase in premium. When we go to the next section, which is B, this is your second layer, which is with Velocity Insurance. This is a $15 million layer, so you're going to have a total of $25 million when we're finished. No changes in any of the coverages there, and the cost on line 6, you'll see we're going from $106,350 to $113,736, about a $7,300 increase there. So I'm going to recommend we quickly approve this property and get it bound before we have storms come in the Gulf. And so tonight I'm here, the total overall for all of your property and casualty, liability, crime, ball and machinery, premium, if you keep it as it is today, is going to be $1,360,138. If we go ahead and take the increase on the deductible for the general liability and for the errors and omissions to $350,000, your total overall tonight is going to be $1,282,438. $1,282,438. And that's what I'm going to recommend that you approve to renew for this year.
Do I hear a motion to adopt?
Move to adopt the administration's recommendation.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
Discussion? Call for a vote.
Good job. I have to say, I don't
Voting
usually
is open.
understand insurance, but you'd make it so easy to understand.
Thank you.
I wanted to say something too. It was so clear, and I was amazed at how you just roll those numbers out. Made a lot of sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Uh-oh, I accidentally got out, Miss Cindy. Yes, on my end.
Voting is closed. Oh. Motion passes unanimously.
Moving to section D, consider approval of the 2021-2022 cyber insurance policy.
Okay, Ms. Cindy, good. All right, we have a cyber liability policy that's coming up for renewal also. And I'm sure, as most of you have been seeing in the news and hearing, that cyber attacks have not gone away. They've only become more prevalent, more expensive, more and more money being paid out. That said, the cyber insurance carriers, when they first started writing this coverage 5-6 years ago, were not really aware of what they were covering. Now that they've had some experience and they can put more and more, they're adding more and more coverage each time for claims that are coming in, strange type claims coming in, and they're actually having some experience on their books. They can actually rate their policies and they have actuaries that are looking at the numbers versus the claims that are being paid out and the premiums that they've taken in. So with that being said, all cyber carriers out there are increasing premiums. And I'm seeing some large increases. I'm also seeing changes in their requirements, making you require you to have multi-factor authentication, making you put different firewalls in on your server. They're putting guidelines in place that you must follow before they'll agree to issue a renewal quote for you. Luckily, your current agent, Emery & James, went out to the marketplace and they were able to find Lloyd's of London. It's a change from Westchester, you'll see there at the top, from what you currently have. You have everything in place that needs to be in place at this time. Now, that's not to say in the future they come up with something else that they want us to incorporate, but we'll come back to you when that happens, or if that happens. Westchester has decided, they issued a quote, that's your current carrier. They issued a quote, but the most that they would write would be a $1 million limit. And that premium indication was $21,000. So Emery & James went out and they got a quote with Lloyd's of London. They got the full $2 million limit, which I believe you really need. The only difference is going to be in your retention amount. Your deductible is going to go from $25,000 to $50,000. But all your other top coverages will remain the same. You will see some increases in Section 3, your cyber crime agreement. You're going to see the event liability and the aggregate they're going to increase it. They're going to actually give you a $250,000 limit for your computer fraud, funds transfer fraud, and social engineering fraud, which is good. Their premium is going to be $19,514, and I recommend that you renew this policy at this premium.
Do I hear a motion to adopt?
Move to adopt.
By Mr. Duncan,
Second.
second by Mr. Mingus. Discussion? Call for a vote.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Moving to section E, consider approval of the 2021-2022 excess workers' compensation insurance policy.
Okay, this is your last one for today. You'll see column 5 on this one. Your current agent, Emery and James, same insurance carrier, Star Insurance. You'll see under your line 2, the estimated annual payrolls increasing about 4.5 million. Same deductible at 700,000, no other change. It's a standard workers' comp policy. When you get down to line 11, the annual premium is increasing to $88,967. It's about a $12,000 increase over expiring. Now, Star Insurance is offering 3 options. They are offering to increase your deductible, and you'll see that under section 12 options. They've agreed to issue a $750,000 deductible for $81,693, $800,000 deductible for $78,336, and $900,000 for $69,831. I am going to recommend you keep your same deductible you have now at $700,000, simply because I don't feel that the decrease in premium, it's not enough premium for the added exposure that you would be taking on workers' comp. I went back through your claims history just like I did on your liability side, and I took the current year and 5 prior years. We have many more workers' comp claims than we have liability claims. And we've had quite a few that have gone to that deductible. Hasn't gone over yet, but getting close. And it's more than one, it's several each year. So because of that and that potential there, I don't think it's enough savings to take on one of those higher deductibles just yet. As long as Star is offering to keep it at the $700,000, I think we need to take advantage of that and keep it at $700,000. With that being said, I can just tell you my experience over the last 2 years and what I'm hearing from excess workers' comp carriers. There's fewer and fewer of them out there. The ones that are out there are buying up the smaller carriers, so we're going to be very limited to who we have. And a lot of the others are now requiring a minimum of a $1 million deductible. That is just something that, keep in the back of your mind, that could happen to us in the future. It's not for this year, and hopefully we can hold that off for a couple of years, but I think down the road that is coming. So I'm going to recommend that you go ahead and renew your workers' comp at the $88,967.
Hear a motion to adopt?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion made and second. We have discussion.
One quick,
Go ahead, Mr. Toller.
these numbers are just mind-boggling to me. I keep hearing these deductibles and how high, and then when I hear you say our 5-year track record of us not getting close to that deductible, it just saddens me that we're spending this much money on insurance and our deductibles are this high. We can't even use it. So it just, I know it's a world that I'm not used to, but these numbers just completely baffle me.
Just to give you an idea, I didn't do it here at Tangipahoa Hope. I have done it at some of my other school boards. I got a quote, an indication from a fully insured group such as an LWCC, workers' comp, just to compare to see if self-funding is still working for them. The lowest premium I've gotten for a school board that's much smaller than y'all was $3.1 million. A premium.
LWCC wanted $3.5 to $4 million to be on the first dollar workers' comp. We also, to write it off.
Crazy.
With no
Your own business.
Yeah, that would be with no deductible. And if you go back and you look, you're paying out average claims about 1.8 million a year.
Each year, right? Yeah.
So you're still ahead of the ballgame.
I've had no accidents in my car. I feel like I'm paying too much for
I
my
need to go up on grass cutting.
All right, no other discussion?
Insurance company hasn't lowered my car insurance.
No, they're not going to either. Call for a vote?
Online voting is open.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Section F, consider approval of the Strong Start stipend, additional COVID sick leave, and employee assistance program for all qualified employees. Mr. Schnattelbach.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What the administration has put together is a three-part package that we feel will help us get the 21-22 school year off to a wonderful start. What we have is we have incentives for stipends for our employees, we have additional COVID sick days, and we have developed an employee assistance mental health program. I'd like to go over them briefly with y'all, if y'all don't mind, and answer any questions after I'm done. Under the strong salary stipend, we are recommending that all our full-time employees who work the entire first 9 weeks term will be eligible for a salary supplement of $1,000. The employee must be hired by August 5th and remain active until October 15th, which is the last day of the first 9-week term. Must have less than 10 absences, must not be on any type of leave, and those employees that work less than 5 hours a day would be eligible for half the stipend at $500. We anticipate there's 2,789 full-time employees, and that this would cost about $3.8 million.
Can I pause you on this?
I'm sorry?
Mr. Schnattelbach? I was going to ask if, I was talking with our director of child nutrition, and she was telling me that even as of today, which is after the August 5th deadline, she is short approximately 25 employees for our child nutrition program. Those employees that were hired before August the 5th would qualify for this $1,000 stipend, but if she were able to recruit those other additional 25 employees tomorrow, they would not qualify for this $1,000 stipend. And I'm wondering whether there can be some thought put into the fact that actually that $1,000 may be a powerful motivator for her to use in her recruitment so that she can try to fill the rest of those 25 positions. So is there some sort of adjustment we can make there so that she can use that in her efforts to recruit?
Certainly, we could consider those employees that are hired in the next 2 weeks as meeting the original starting deadline. That's something I think the superintendent would consider.
Because I'm seeing where we short teachers and a lot of employees at this time, right?
All the hours, even in place, Bob.
Miss Silly, that's the question. I'm gonna rephrase that. Thank you. How many people are we still looking for? Do you have any idea? Not just what Mr. Duncan was talking about.
Well, we have the cafeteria, and there may be a few, maybe weren't, but just a very few, just a very few teaching positions, Mr.
I think our biggest area of concern right now is our school food service employees. We do have a few teacher vacancies, and we have some assistant principal vacancies that we are advertising for right now. Yes, sir.
So is that something that we need to act on today, or is that something where y'all, are we voting to approve this?
Tonight.
Tonight, so
Well,
I mean-
it will eventually come to the full board next week, but we're open to suggestions. I don't think we'd be opposed to moving that August 5th to maybe the, August 17th, next Tuesday night, if you want, or even further.
So maybe August 17th, which would be the day that the board would do final approval.
Could do that.
Would y'all be amending your recommendation tonight to move that date from the 5th to the August 17th?
Yes, sir, we could.
One other question on that. On the 10 days, no more than 10 days, does it matter what those 10 days are for? It's just sick days, COVID days, whatever?
It would be in excess of 10 days. We're going to talk about COVID leave that would be not included in those 10 days. I'm sorry, the COVID leave would be included in those 10 days. So it'd be sick days, it could be a type of leave, it could be COVID, extended COVID days. The purpose of the incentive is to encourage employees to come to work the first 9 weeks. We think 10 days is plenty to miss. If you go another 5 days and it's 15, so then you're talking 3 weeks out of the 9, a third of the time you could be absent shy 1 day and still be eligible for the stipend. We think 10 days is sufficient.
I think 10 is very generous.
And I understand that concept. The only thing that scares me on that with the COVID is, will we have employees that are borderline sick that are going to say, I'm going to work. I can't miss. I got $1,000 on the line. And are we going to encourage those sick employees to continue to come to work because they don't want to miss? That's my fear.
Well, Mr. Dink is our expert on the COVID days, but it's my understanding that if the employee is vaccinated and if the employee, because that's a contingent on the sick days, if the employee is vaccinated, the employee is a close contact, as long as they're not running fever or anything like that, they're allowed to come to work. If they test positive for COVID, then they only need to be kept at home, correct me wrong, for 5 days unless they're running fever or something like that. 10 days. It's 10 days.
Well,
Even if they're vaccinated, Mr.
Well, my other,
I'm sorry.
If you're vaccinated or not, if you're positive, you are 10 days quarantined. Yes, sir.
my understanding is that a person who is fully vaccinated can be a carrier, and he could carry a viral load that is 100 times higher than a person who is unvaccinated. That's the latest that I heard, because of the viral load that a person carries before they get sick, they start showing symptoms, are different in a vaccinated person and one who's unvaccinated.
I don't want to pull, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, I'm done.
I didn't mean to ask the question to pull us in the weeds, because I know there's a lot of what ifs, but I have a teacher just text me, what if I have antibodies? If I get tested and I have antibodies, but I've never had COVID. So they can't get the vaccine because they have the antibodies,
Yes, they can get the vaccine if they have antibodies.
not in a timely manner. You have to wait so many,
You don't have to wait that long anymore. That's not true.
I'll let you talk to her.
Okay.
Because the doctor told her you wouldn't let her get the vaccine for a certain amount of time.
It depends on what doctor you're talking to, is what answer you're going to get.
Yeah, I think they'll allow you.
Well, my biggest question was that today, and several questions I got to ask about the 10 days. So what if somebody gets really sick, or what if their kids get sick and they have to stay home and it's no fault of their own? They're trying to come to work, and then we're going to say, okay, well, if you're absent 10 days, you can't have it. Like Tom says, they're going to be coming to work because they're scared they're going to miss out on the $1,000 if they miss 11 days and they got the COVID, or their 3 children got sick for whatever reason.
Right, but
I mean,
if you go more than, look, the benefit is you get to stay home and use your sick days, and you're getting paid to stay home, which many employees in our parish do not get that benefit at all. If you start giving a stipend, which is an extra benefit to actually work, and you're giving it to them when they have missed more than 10 days of work, then you really, at that point, are defeating the purpose of the stipend, which is to encourage people to come to work during the 9 weeks. I just don't.
well, I understand it's to encourage. That's what but I thought when we met at our workshop that we didn't tag, like, if they were not on leave, they were not on sabbatical, they weren't out having a baby or whatever, they were employed, that they would get the stipend if they participated. If they got sick, if they got the COVID because a child in their classroom got COVID, they don't want to stay home because they got the COVID, but if that's going to be a factor, they may just come to work anyway, and which is defeating our purpose of keeping healthy.
But that would,
I don't know, it's just, I was just thinking it was going to be more like, naturally, we don't want somebody going off on vacation and they just acting like they're sick.
That was my
I
understanding.
mean, I would think that the in-house principal would know.
One of the,
and-
excuse me, one of the requirements of using ESSER funds is that it's not across-the-board salary supplement, that it is used to encourage those employees that are going above and beyond, that are doing extra duties, that are doing more. So by having a limited number of days and encouraging them to come to work, we're recognizing those employees who meet those goals. If we just do a blanket across the board, then it would not be eligible for ESSER funds. It would have to come out the general fund, which we don't have.
I
Are
think
we
it would
requiring
be
that
a-
if a person has tested positive, that they quarantine, that they stay home? Are we enforcing a
Yes.
requirement? So
If
we-
you're positive, you can't come to work.
So we basically remove that person from from the possibility of receiving that stipends if they
If they
test
have less than
positive. We
10
tell them,
days, they're still
you're
eligible.
taking away that incentive. I'm forcing them to.
Well, no, because if they haven't taken off days prior to getting COVID, and then they get COVID and they have to stay out for 10 days, they've used their 10 days. We're just trying to make them not take off to go shopping, to get their hair colored, to whatever days that they're taking off, just in general, to stop that for the first 9 weeks. Keep your days just in case you should happen to get sick. Try not to take off for every little thing you need to take off for.
Well, that's what
I
I'm
just think
saying,
we
but
should
somebody
accept-
can get sicker than 10 days. Some people are in bed longer than 10 days with the COVID. We've seen it amongst ourselves.
Right.
And they get to stay home and get paid using their sick days, but they should not also
The stipend.
get the $1,000 stipend. If you go longer than the 10 days and you still give this stipend to people who have stayed home, fine, yes, because they were sick. That is a slap in the face to all of those teachers and employees that did not go home and that did wear their mask and that did get vaccinated and are coming home and coming to work every day during that 9-week period. It is an incentive to do everything you can to come to work during that 9-week period. That's what it exists for.
And that 10-day period also includes the weekends.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So you would have to take the whole,
I don't
you'd have
know-
to take 2 whole weeks plus the weekend,
Right, which is 14 days.
which is yeah.
I don't know very many people that take off 10 days in a 9-week period, do we? Do we have teachers that do
But
that?
we're not talking about a normal day and week of the year. We're talking about COVID pandemic. I mean, we've
Exactly.
had people out for 10 days, seriously ill, but now that's a slap in the face to those people who accidentally got COVID, maybe from one of their students.
Yeah, I think
And it's not that they don't want to show up. I mean, I'm just saying, I just can hear both sides of it, because you can't continue to just give days and give days and give days. But I just think it's something that we almost need to look at by case basis, like we've done everything else, and not just say, well, you were sick 11 days and you don't benefit because you were sick. I mean, it's not that they weren't trying to come to work. That's what the incentive is. Naturally, we want them to come to work, but as Tom just said,
But they're gonna be there.
they're going to come. They might be sick and they might still come, which is the worst thing they can possibly do.
Did I hear that you would get the $500 half?
If you're not a full-time employee and you work less than 5 hours a day, that would include some paras, lunchroom workers, a few individuals, not many.
Could we do the 500 for COVID if they're over the 10 days?
Y'all can make adjustments as y'all deem necessary. The administration's recommending not to exceed 10
Our
days.
employees last year who were out more than 10 days, I know you remember, it's hard for you to tell. But the employees that did miss because of the virus, were they teachers, administrators, maintenance workers, cafeteria workers? What was the highest percentage?
There was all groups, but I would say the teachers would be the group that missed the most, being close contacts and positives.
There was mostly close contact, correct? This may go less positive.
Correct. Last year was a close contact type of,
If you're vaccinated this year and you have a close contact and you have no symptoms, what's the?
you continue to work. You do not have to quarantine if I've been vaccinated and have no symptoms and I'm a close contact of a positive individual.
Is that including students as well?
Correct, yes, ma'am.
If a 13-year-old over has been vaccinated?
Okay, so at present time, do they have to test negative before they can re-enter back into?
When I finish my quarantine, if whether I'm a close contact or a positive, if I have no symptoms at the end of my quarantine for at least 24 hours, I can return.
Okay. Can an employee return before that quarantine period is over if they test negative?
Correct, yes, sir. But if I'm a close, I would not even have to test if I chose not to. If I wanted to just extend my, or go through my quarantine period, and I had no symptoms at the end of that quarantine period, I can return to work.
That's not vaccinated people.
But that's vaccinated.
Close contact, those symptoms do not come, you come to work.
That is correct.
But Mr. Jenkins, Mr. Moore just made me think of something. So last year, my son was one of those got quarantined like 6 times. Seriously, he's vaccinated now.
Mr. Bush, turn your mic on. I don't.
He's vaccinated now, but he always had a chance toward the end. After about 7 days, he could go get tested and bring her back to school.
As we went through the pandemic, they changed some recommendations, and what it is now, if I'm a close contact and I'm not vaccinated, I can test between day 5 and 7. If I test negative between day 5 and 7, I can return on day 8. If I choose not to test, I'll stay out 10 days and come back day 11, providing I have no symptoms.
And the 10 days includes weekends?
Correct, yes, sir. It is 10, correct.
Whereas the sick days are only weekdays?
Correct, yes, sir.
So so if you were one of those close contact quarantines during this 9-week period, you would have to be quarantined twice in order to go over your 10 days, sick days, correct?
Correct, yes, providing there were no issues at the end of your quarantine,
If
yes,
you
sir.
went and got tested between the 5 and 7 days,
Between
and
the 5 and
got
7 days,
tested.
correct, you can return on day 8.
That's a good point, Mr. Duncan.
Because they have.
All right, Mr. Snobbart, I think we can go ahead and try to finish this, and then I got to get a motion on the floor, even
Yes.
though we've had a lot of
So
discussion pre-vote.
Thank you, Mr. In addition to the additional salary stipend, the administration is recommending additional COVID sick leave eligible days during the first semester of the 2021 school year, and any vaccinated employee who tests positive for COVID-19 and is required to be quarantined will be allowed 5 additional paid sick leave days. The COVID sick leave days will not count against other paid leave days such as sick or annual leave. And in addition, the administration is recommending that we purchase an employee assistance program insurance policy, which for the 2021 school year, 21-22 school year, all full-time employees and their dependents will have access to confidential behavior health benefits at no cost to them. The confidential counseling program includes unlimited phone call counseling for mental health, crisis counseling, and substance abuse assistance. There'll be up to 3 in-person individual counseling opportunities, up to 3 legal consultations, and up to 3 financial consultations at no cost to the employee. It also includes online resources such as a health library, quarterly wellness webinars, wellness lessons on healthy behaviors. The cost of this for our almost 2,800 employees would be about $48,000. Again, this would be covered by our ESSER funds.
Okay.
This is what the administration is recommending as a 3-pronged benefit for our employees to get our school year started.
And do I hear a motion?
Move to adopt the administration's recommendation with the amendment of the
August
the
17th.
August 17th hire date.
Have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Rose. We have any further discussion on this?
One quick,
Yes, sir.
I'd be remiss if I didn't say it, and this is not a political stand whatsoever about, people will argue vaccines from now until Jesus returns, and people have all kinds of opinions on that. I'm still uncomfortable. I'm not on this committee, so I guess I'll wait till it comes to the board, but I'm uncomfortable with our policy, what the benefits the employees receive is based on whether or not they make a medical decision or not. It seems like the confidentiality of whether or not someone decides to take the vaccine is out the window, because they're going to have to publicly state whether or not they've had the vaccine or not to get the result of what we're giving them in their benefits. And I'm just uncomfortable, regardless of where somebody stands on vaccines or not. It just seems like we're not giving them much of a choice. If you want the extra days, you got to get the vaccine. If you want to stay at school with close contact, you have to get the vaccine.
And
It just seems,
and that is kind of the point, is to encourage the vaccine so that we can encourage having a healthy school environment and avoid the disruption that various quarantines caused last year when the vaccine wasn't available. But on the confidentiality issue, I think we addressed that already. We are not during this meeting, it was a prior meeting. That is not confidential information. We already have that information available to us. We have a database that is provided to us through the Louisiana Department of Health, is that right?
That's correct.
So we already have that information with or without the employee's consent.
We discussed that at the retreat. Yeah,
I'm
but-
sorry, I wasn't there.
Okay, no, but at the retreat, we said that we didn't have access to that database.
I think we have access to it. Mr. Dico?
Our head nurse can gain access to the database when someone lets us know that person X has been positive, and if we ask if they're a close contact, we will ask the individual, have they been vaccinated, yes or no, to determine whether they have to quarantine or not. So it is not going to be something that is going to be public knowledge to everyone. But if we have to get, if the head nurse has to get into the database to verify the number of days that he or she has had since the vaccine, we could verify that to determine quarantining and so forth.
Okay.
So you're saying this is on an as needed to know basis? It's not just, you just...
Correct. This is not some type of spreadsheet. This is if we need to find out if the individual, if they ask Ron, when were you vaccinated? Okay, I was vaccinated on August 14th, and it is September 1st. The nurse may have to check that to verify that I was vaccinated in the dates that I say, and I'm 2 weeks past that date to get the full immunity, to determine my quarantine status or not. But this is not something I can go look up, or Mr. Schneiderbach or anybody else. This is specifically the Region 9, our head nurse has that ability to do that.
Well, I'm going to vote for this because I think it's a good thing. I think we need to do this. I think we need to be grateful for our employees for coming to work and for everything they went through last year. But I am still not happy with the, because at our retreat, we did not talk about adding you got to come to work 5 days or 10 days or none of that. So this was kind of just like not in our original discussion. And once it got out to the public, then I started getting phone calls about it. And so I'm concerned, and I just had to voice my concern, but we definitely need to do this. We definitely need to give our employees some kind of incentive and some kind of thank you as well.
All right, then we'll go ahead and call for a vote on it then.
Well,
The
just one
committee
last
members.
comment, one last comment. I believe that, I agree with you, Janice. I agree with her. I believe that we should go ahead and do this. But I can't say that I'm in total agreement with placing a person who contracts COVID while working. I don't think that should affect the 10 days.
Well, I'm not sure if y'all fully understood. The use of the ESSER funds is contingent on having it not be across-the-board salary supplement for all employees. If it was across-the-board salary supplement for all employees, the federal funds would not be eligible. They're only eligible because it's related to those employees that meet a criteria, and the criteria that we've set and recommended to the board is based on those who attend work the first 9 weeks and significantly attend at work. So please consider that's why the funds are available.
All right, well, I'm sure we'll have further discussion next week when all the members will
Correct.
be able
But
to.
technically, what calmed me was when Brett explained that, okay, the weekends are not counted So technically, you're not gonna get, you will get 7 days that would be taken away from you as opposed to 10 days. So you can be quarantined for your 10 days, that includes that weekend, and then be still qualify for.
And you still have a
stipend.
couple extra days.
Right, and you still have extra days.
Correct.
Yes.
Or it could be on a Friday and you have 2 weekends and it would
Yeah.
only be 5 days.
So you'll be fine.
True.
That's true.
Okay, Miss Cindy, we'll call for a vote.
Voting is open.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question for Mr. Stonerbach
I never did
for our next meeting. Mr. Stonerbach, could next time you give us an update on our grass cutting situation? Because I'm still getting phone calls about that, so
Okay.
I don't know what's going on. There's so many rumors out there. I don't need it tonight, but if you don't
Voting is
mind.
closed.
Yes, sir.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right. Nothing else to come before the finance, we'll adjourn it.